Hey yo, what's up everybody? It's in JJ. Today we're coming back a video basically talking about Flynt Finance, and of course on the content itself, today we're going to talk about the gains that Flynt Finance made, and of course the loss of my personal results on Flynt Finance, and of course the gains on Flynt Finance as well. So if let's say you have not subscribed to the channel, kindly hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and of course turn on post notification. Do check out my Patreon page as well. Join my Discord or Telegram if let's say you are interested in discussion. So over here I've done the video basically talking about the Flynt Finance losses on the March 26 itself. So over here we have done like some losses previously on Flynt Finance, and of course you can see that again the returns itself was negative 0.135 Bitcoin. And of course on the strategy itself, I had almost like 2 Bitcoins on the platform basically generating passive income. But of course after this situation itself, from time to time itself, I deemed that I should just reduce my position as well. So I took out 1 Bitcoin from the platform, and of course I'm going to show you my personal result later on the content. But we're going to jump into the topic itself, talking about the first 31% that they make within this week itself. So over here we are looking at the strategy X itself. Over here they have like a few types of strategy, and of course for Bitcoin there's 2 strategy, basically the call option 5 times, and after that another one is just the X. So over here this X itself has already made a loss of 22% APY, and of course you can see as of today my losses on this platform itself is this amount. I'm going to talk about it later on. So over here we're going to scroll down itself. Looking at the strategy itself, it started on basically on May itself, May 19, and after that over here we can see that during the first 2 weeks itself, it was making like crazy, I mean not crazy, but decent gains itself, 0.4%, 0.7%, and after that eventually it was all going downhill all the way. So you can see that during the time itself, they had almost 29 Bitcoin, 32 Bitcoin. Eventually the Bitcoin was kept growing. Basically people are putting more funds in to the strategy itself, and eventually we can see that as of today itself is around at 17%. And of course over here we can see that maybe people has basically reinvested their gains through the 31% week itself. So on this single week itself, they done a return of 31% because the price of Bitcoin went down, and after that from there eventually hitting their strike price of the put, and after that eventually when it goes lower and lower, it basically is a double strategy, going long and short. I mean like basically there's a call and a put option over here. So this is basically hoping the price of Bitcoin goes above or under the amount itself. When it does that, basically you are in for a huge gain. And of course eventually we have seen Bitcoin dumping this week itself towards like 26,000, and of course they have basically locked in this strike price at, I believe it was 26,000 plus, and after that eventually making a gains of 31% within that single week itself. So I would say this over here is really surprising. And of course if let's say I have stayed with whatever amount that I have, I could have basically recouped it. So I'm going to show you my personal results. So upon hearing all of this is not financial advice asking you to dump your funds into it or whatsoever, but this is just another type of strategy or passive income platform that you can basically look into by basically, if let's say you're looking to generate additional Bitcoin. If let's say you have some Bitcoin and after that you are looking to basically grow some more Bitcoin itself instead of buying it, you can use your existing capital to basically fund this type of platform. But we've already seen that previous week there's many weeks that it was in the red zone, negative 3%, negative 4%, this type of fluctuation. And of course I would say that this is not a financial advice asking you to put your money in, but of course you have to know that there's potential risk of losing money. So eventually I've already shown and proven it itself. So my net returns itself is basically 0.5 Bitcoin, 0.57 Bitcoin down, and of course it is around 15,000. So how am I going to recoup this amount over here? To be honest, I'm just going to put whatever funds being left on the subscription amount to basically make it back as a whole Bitcoin. So over here we can see that previously I have mentioned on the content I put in 2 Bitcoin, but eventually when I saw like there was losses like many weeks, so eventually I want to reduce my position because I'm looking to basically not lose so much. Therefore I put in like I took out 1 Bitcoin, and after that eventually left 1 Bitcoin left 1 Bitcoin there to play, and after that eventually you can see that as of today we are still in the negative zone of 0.57%. So if let's say you have joined in like maybe on the, I don't know, maybe a month before, you have been making like losses of like 479, and after that eventually almost 13 to 14% of losses. But if let's say you held it through that 1 week, 1 month itself, they made a 31% gain, and eventually you already recouped all your losses. But for my case itself is slightly different because I reduced my position. Therefore it will need to take a longer holding period to basically recoup. And of course we can see that this 31% itself, it was a very rare week itself. Upon like maybe over here we can see that there was a huge loss of 23%. So if let's say you already been hit by this period of time itself, honestly having this 31% itself will not even break even your position, because 23 and after that minus another one, all this position itself, you're almost down 50% on your capital if let's say you held through the whole week, the whole strategy during the inception period. So over here we can see that I'm really on the inception period since then until now itself, made some gains and after eventually lost big time. Over here we have lost big time, but of course eventually we made back some big time funds. Over here, if let's say you held a one Bitcoin position, you will be basically making back your 30%, and of course eventually you're only down like around 20% if I'm not wrong, or 25%. But for my case itself, I reduced the position, therefore capital itself has really been reduced, and after that the gains itself can't be made back, because over here you can see that if let's say you held it on, it's basically 27%. So if let's say I held all my Bitcoin in, I should have around 0.75 Bitcoin or more over there, but eventually I reduced my position, so can't really like be guilty or sad about it, because I already set my losses, cut my losses there, and after that from there eventually it's still running. So this amount over here, I'm just intending to put it there to basically let it keep rolling and rolling. Hopefully I can make back my money, but eventually if I can't make back my money, it is fine, because this is the amount that I'm willing to risk with Flynt Finance. And of course lastly, the thoughts about this platform. So this over here has shown like I've lost 0.6 Bitcoin, and after that gain around 0.2 Ethereum. So previously I have some Ethereum running, but of course eventually I just put out my Ethereum as well to do other stuff itself, like staking on the Ethereum 2.0 network. So over here we can see that Bitcoin itself is lost at 0.62 Bitcoin, and of course eventually I put out around 1 Bitcoin. So we can see that on my account itself it has around 0.4 something Bitcoin. So I eventually need to recoup this amount itself. I'm just gonna let my strategy run. So over here, the thoughts about this platform itself, it is a good run. I mean, like, we had a good run basically over here. My net asset value itself, and of course we can see on Bitcoin itself, I put in like $2,000 over dollars, and eventually I increased my position to 2 Bitcoin. Eventually the price of Bitcoin went up, and of course the strategy was making money, but eventually it did not make money and lost some money. Eventually I reduced my position into half. And of course, basically I just put up my funds, and I would say that over here you can see that the cumulative amount itself, weeks by week itself, earning like almost 500, 900, and even like eventually collected almost like 1.3k worth of Bitcoin, but eventually kept losing and losing and losing and losing. And of course eventually I would say that the win rate ratio itself over here is 3 to 13 upon inception. So this 5x strategy itself, I would say, is much more risky. X strategy, this X strategy itself is much more riskier, and of course there is like many chances of not hitting the strike price, and of course not making profits during that week itself. Therefore I would say, let's say you're looking to make like steady gains, honestly the 5x option over here, it is quite steady, because it is basically doing, it's not really that steady, but of course eventually it lost some money since inception itself. It has been losing money. So over here, this week itself, it has done a short and of course lost like around 23%. But of course on the 5x itself, if I'm not wrong, this is 23rd. So over here on the strategy itself, 18, basically the strategy lost some money, and after that eventually it have not been running, so they stopped the strategy because there was like risky nodes itself. So eventually the strategy itself on this 5x call itself has really been paused for many weeks, because the indicator is not going in, and of course telling them not to enter. Therefore after this loss itself, they have improved their strategy to not lose so much money. But eventually the currently running strategy itself is basically Bitcoin X, and of course for this X itself is really risky. And of course I would say, if let's say you want to test out the platform or whatsoever, you can try like 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.001 Bitcoin to basically do the subscription, and after that start the passive income if let's say you are willing to risk it. So we can look at the Ethereum cover calls itself. We can scroll down. For Ethereum itself, it has done 1 week of loss of 1%, but eventually it got covered back within the next weeks of calls. And after that, I would say Ethereum itself is steady. It has been making profits all along. So if let's say you're looking to grow Ethereum itself, you can put it on the platform and try out their Ethereum strategy itself, the 3-time call. And of course for USDC itself, we can see that over here it has been making steady gains as well. But of course the steady gains itself is slightly little. Looking at it, it is making like 10% on average, or even 15% on average. And of course some week itself is not even making money. So over here you can see that this over here, the AUM itself has been increasing, and of course suddenly decreased. Do not know why. But eventually itself, the USDC and the Ethereum core options itself, I would say, is much more stable. And of course Vega staking itself is definitely stable. It is staking on the Vega network. But the riskier part of this platform itself is Bitcoin cover calls, 5x, and of course X itself. So if let's say I would like to recommend you to the platform itself, I would say definitely you can try out the USDC and of course Ethereum for a higher like profit rates. And of course, if let's say you are willing to risk some Bitcoin itself, try out the X. If let's say you want to try, you can try the call option X itself. So my financial thoughts itself, this is not financial advice. Basically, it's just to show you that this is a possible way for you to basically generate passive income in the cryptocurrency space slash making money online. And after that, from there, this over here, you need to have capital to start up. And of course, you can refer your friends if let's say you're interested. So if let's say you're interested in signing up the platform, use my link down below and of course support the channel. And I'm really appreciate you watching through the whole video. And lastly, I've done to the end of the video. If you have not subscribed to the channel, kindly hit the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and of course check out my Patreon and join my Discord or Telegram if let's say you have any questions. So I'm going to see you on the next one. Bye bye. Peace.